Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you.
Hey guys, before we jump into the episode, I wanted to let you know it is brought to you by Denim. As a business owner myself, I personally know the importance of financial stability and preserving cash flow to help navigate through any freight market. With Denim's comprehensive service offering, you now have an all-in-one financial partner whose platform includes factoring, payments, freight audit, document collection management, and analytics, which help keep your business financially healthy and increase your team's time to focus on revenue-producing activities. You can also take advantage of Denim's free credit check, which they perform on all of your customers. And Denim will proactively reach out to you if they spot any signs of credit deterioration. Finally, Denim always pays your carriers first. As a broker, this is imperative to preserving your credit score in the market, which ultimately helps you become a broker of choice to your carrier partners. Are you ready to learn more? Visit denim.com to schedule a demo today. Just do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines, but most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, you guys, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. All right, I got a very special guest for you guys. I'm going to bring him up literally right away here. You guys know the routine on everything, but we're going to talk about the realities of building a book of business and everything out there and some best practices. So I got my fellow SPI agent over there, Mr. Scott Whitford. Scott, what's going on, brother? How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm doing well. And, you know, before we went live here, it was funny because we were both talking about kind of how our day is going. And then ironically, right before I go live almost every day, I get bombarded with freight requests and everything else. And I'm bidding it on the show sometimes. And you were mentioning that as well here, is up until about 20 minutes ago. Then all of a sudden it's like gangbuster.
Well, yeah, they knew that I was going to be coming on the show, which is kind of funny because I thought we were live earlier when we were talking. So I was just going along with it.
And see, Scott, that's what I like to do, man. I like to have, this is just the whole premise of my show is it's just talking about real strategies and tactics that people apply inside of the transportation industry by people who are actually doing the job, you know, because like you and I have taken the road less traveled. We're both agents. We're both out there trying to build up our books of business and service our existing customers and everything. But before we get into any of that, man, like how'd you get your start in freight? What brought you into the industry?
Cody Eccles. Good friend of mine. Actually miss him. He's in Oregon. I guess he's retired out, and now I haven't heard from him in a while. I walked into, he was one of our club brothers too, and I walked into his house, and I saw this map up, and I said, what is that? Because I love map. I love maps. I love anything that makes my brain work. Yeah. And he goes, oh, I'm a broker. What do you mean you're a broker? And then he showed me, and within 2 weeks, I was in with Action. And then went from Action. I thought I was getting in with another company called ZP, but it was a work from home. There was no way I was ready for that yet, because I wasn't even fully trained at that point. So went in with Action Heavy Haul before we went back to New York. Got out of it for about a year because I was in New York. I didn't know about the whole agent program part at that time where I could just go anywhere. So I had to get out, went back to Oregon, got in with Alliance Trucking for the longest time. Missed a lot of them. It was a really good time there. Dad got sick and had to make the choice to come back and either leave everything, and then spoke with Mike McCulloch, and here I am. Been with SPI for 4 years now.
Yeah, it's I didn't really know the agent model. I knew of it, but like I didn't know like how in depth it actually went until I met Mike and James like 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago now. And what I like the most about it, I think overall is like, we are as an individual agent, as you're getting things up and running, you're able to operate like you're a couple $100 million organization because you have all of that backing behind you, and you're able to kind of sidestep the real pains of starting out in business. And that's, like especially on brokerage where you don't have a credit rating, you don't have anything, you don't know how to factor anything, you don't know any systems or procedures. And then like this is like legitimately it's a business in a box, man. And you're able to jump in and really plug in day one and start moving freight at that point.
Yep, they give you the chance to build your own empire. It's kind of up to you where you want to be, how much you want to build it, but it can come and go in a second. You can have that $1 million customer, and then they can be gone, but it's up to you to make sure you're able to build. And with having SPI backing us and giving us and doing what they do for us, there's no I don't feel there would be another way for me able to do what I'm doing without that support and that backing that they're giving, because there's sometimes where I think in the 4 years that I've been with them, I went 2 weeks out of the 4 years without moving one load in a week. And it felt horrible, but you just kept going, and they didn't give you slack. They don't do this. They don't do that. You run your business. Excuse me. You do what you have to do to make it happen, but you also know you have that support. And that's why I tell everybody that wants to know about this business, you want to know this business, you need to get in with these people. It's 45 years. They've been doing this for 45 years, and they know business. They know the business model, and they don't just pay a monthly fee to use the service. No, they go ahead and partner with them to make sure they're giving you everything they can so you can do what you've got to do.
No, and speaking of doing what you got to do, man, you brought up something really, really important, right? Like about how all of your business it's fragile, right? Like no matter what, ultimately, like my mindset when it comes down to all of my customers is I'm only as good as my last shipment with them. It doesn't matter if I've done 1,000 shipments perfectly. I'm only as good as that last shipment. And there are so many things out of our control, right? Like transportation managers leave, our contacts leave, and then they can shut you off, right? Like the new person comes in. I've seen that happen. That's why it's like, for me, man, I don't stop selling, right? Like my mindset is, and I know I shared this with you the other day, but like my mindset is I have this written on my desk right here on this little note. It says, I'm either going to dial for my dreams or somebody else's. Like I'm never good in business, and I have to be out there constantly trying to develop new business and get in with anybody who really fits inside of my niche. But I think that a fatal error that a lot of people make is they do land that one big account, and then they build up a team around it, but then they stop, right? Because they get so consumed in that. And I get it, but I feel like after you get to that point, that's when it's like, all right, now I gotta go find another. Now I gotta go find another, because business can come and go, man.
Yeah, they can take. It can be gone. Just finding the customer is harder than It's like when you're talking to a driver and they're like, oh, well, I found something, blah, blah, blah. I can't do this. I can't do that. And I'm like, okay, so you guys don't understand how hard it is to find the customer, to appease that customer, build that relationship with the customer. We're not just calling saying, hey, send me over what freight you have. And they're just going to say, oh, okay. Okay, Scott, sure. I'll send it over to you. It's all yours.
Yeah.
And then you don't know who they are. I mean, you have to build that relationship. And when a carrier, they want that truck order not used, or they want that if something happens on their end, but it's like they can do whatever they want. And they don't care about the outcome because they know they can just pick up a phone, go get the next load. And they don't understand one mess up, two mess ups, a customer you've been with a long time, they might take a couple of mess ups, but they're going to be like, something's got to change here, because they have a higher up they have to listen to as well.
Yeah. It, to me, from my perspective is, you have to go in there and, like, how are you out there actively qualifying some of your customers, right? Because like when I'm going in there and I'm cold calling people, like a lot of it right away is, I'm trying to qualify all of these shippers when I'm calling them the first time around, second time around. Whenever I get somebody on the phone, I want to find out kind of like what their operations look like, how things look like. And I'm going in with very pointed questions, right? Like I'm not going in there saying, hey, let me bid on your freight. I'm better than everybody else. I'm cheaper than everybody else. None of that stuff. I'm going in there. I'm very specific into the open deck world. Yes, we move dry van and some other stuff out there for some existing accounts, but like I'm really going after a lot of open deck shippers for the most part, because that's like, I just have the most fun with that. I honestly do. Nothing against dry van shippers or food or anything like that. I have the most fun with flatbeds, Conestogas, RGNs, and stuff like that, because I'm a little kid, man, when I see a front end loader getting loaded on an RGN. But so when I'm going on out there, I have very pointed questions in the business development phase that I stick to on there. And a lot of that is from what I've identified. They are able to tell that, hey, at least this guy seemingly knows what he's talking about. Let's have a conversation later on. Because like the reality is when you cold call somebody for the first time, they're not going to add you. You're not going to just start quoting their freight. They don't need you. Right. So it's like you have to earn your way in over time. So it's like I try and build a system, and a really good book out there. I just finished reading this. And I know that the author of this book catches a lot of shit, but it's Jordan Belfort's book, about the Wolf, the Wolf of Wall Street guy, about the straight line selling system. He lays it out there on a really practical steps to follow when you're prospecting, and and kind of how to build up off of that.
Well, the other thing that you also have to see too is you're going to get tested by anybody you're cold calling, and you never know if you're getting tested, because they also want to know you have the knowledge. You can call anybody you want, but you also have to make sure you have the knowledge in, what are they shipping? How many people, you kind of want to know, are they what we call the nickel customer, where they've got 100 brokers moving their stuff and you're all competing by 5 cents. I don't do it. Kind of like what you're saying with the book, it tells you the in and outs, and it tells you what you can do. And I haven't read it yet, but I pretty much can get an idea of what you were saying. But when it comes down to it, there is so many of these things online saying, oh, broker school. And then, oh, now you're just going to go ahead and make a call, and they're expecting that customer to be like, sure, okay, go ahead. No, I had customers that I've been talking to for a year, and now finally I get in with them. And then a couple of them I lost immediately because something bad happened with a truck or something. Was it always the truck's fault? No. Was it my fault? Probably. Was it the truck's fault? Probably. But things happen in logistics. We can't change that. But if if they gave you a chance and you mess it up on the first one, you're in trouble trying to stay with that customer. It doesn't matter if you've been working with that customer trying to get them for 6 months or a year. You're going to lose them, or unless you get, what you're doing. You know exactly what they're putting on their trailer. You know what needs to be done. So that way the carrier you're sending in knows, and use a carrier Don't use a carrier that you're just starting up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, use somebody you know that you can rely on immediately. But
Yeah.
and it's kind of like you said earlier on that what you keep when I sent you, getting frustrated, overwhelmed, feeling a dead end, keep calling. The next call could be yours. You know, because you're going to call 100 and you might get one.
Yeah. I mean,
you might get 10.
Yeah, legitimately, man. Over the last 5 days, I think I probably, we'll say out of the last 100 calls that I had made, I had 5 conversations with people. And then I had one that was like, I would classify them as a top tier prospect, right? Where it's like, all right, this individual, we had a really good conversation, sent over all my information on their request. And now we kind of sit back and wait, right? And in the sense of like, I'm not emailing them today now and saying, hey, let me bid on your freight. You know what I mean? I'm playing that out to see where it is. But, as soon as we're done with our show here this morning, man, like I'm going and I'm picking up the phone and I'm going to start my dials for the day and get that round of calls in, because I'm holding myself to that standard every single day. Because like, you're right, man, you are literally one phone call away from changing your life, right? Like I think about the first time I met James and Mike back a couple of years ago, man. Like the reality is, if I didn't go and meet them at that show and didn't have them come into my life, I don't realistically, I don't know if I'd still be in business, because the reality is where I was at that time. I had some a shuffle up of my first 2 advertisers, and I didn't know if I had the revenue to sustain it much longer. And then I met Mike and James, and they came in, and it's just been like, again, that one conversation away, you're one interaction away. And that's the mentality that you have to have, whether you're building a book of business, an agency, a business, whatever it is, your mentality every single time. I'm one phone call away. I'm one email away. I'm one introduction away every single day. And then, you kind of got to be a little delusional a little bit, because it's like you can go months without having anything happen. And then boom, you're one phone call away though.
Persistence.
Yeah.
Very much persistence. Just stay on it. Like I said, I've had a customer finally almost a year, and now I pretty much do, because I was always moving stuff out of there, and I kept saying, what's it going to take? What's going to happen? Sending emails, talking to them, and then finally one day they said, hey, we see you've been doing really good with this. What do you know about this? Blah, blah, blah. Now they want me to handle all their dealers. So it just depends on you. It depends on what you're going to do to make things happen. But I've also had a lot of training. I've met a lot of people, a lot of great people that's been in the business over the years. But honestly, if I didn't have like SPI, the company I'm running agency under right now, I don't think I'd be in business either, because it can get really frustrating. It can get really hard. And I love being like, you want to do all you can do to make things happen, but there's sometimes you have to reach out and you have to say, hey, this is what's going on. And they're always there, no matter what. They're always there. It doesn't matter if it's a weekend. It doesn't matter if I had to get on the phone with one of them at midnight and we're chasing down a truck, or there's a complication, oh my goodness, what's going to happen with the funds or something. They're there no matter what. And I haven't seen that.
It's,
I with this company.
Yeah, I look at it like this, man. Operating capital it's a very real thing when you're starting up, and then especially if you're out there moving, freight. And like for me, one of the best stories that I like to tell is we have a customer that there's been a couple of times where we've had to organize a crane to come in, offload the stuff off of our carrier's truck and everything like that. And, it's a couple $1,000s to get all of that done. And they're like, and SPI is like, no, we'll pay for it up front. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. You don't have to pay for anything. We got it all. And again, like some people might think, oh, a couple of $1,000s, that's a paltry amount of money. But when you're first getting started, a couple $1,000s is everything to you, and then the fact that they're taking all of that financial risk when you get started, because they are, right? Like they are taking all of that financial risk from an operational standpoint, from an insurance standpoint. And those are like the biggest expenses in your business when you're first getting started, right? Because I know like brokers don't technically need insurance by law, which I disagree with. I think every broker should have cargo insurance and insurance out there. I really do. Fortunately, we have all of that out there. And, you know, like all the times when we need additional insurance, for example, because we move high value freight. If we can't find a cargo that has or a carrier that has 250 in cargo or 300 in cargo, boom, they just take care of that stuff. They help us just execute. And that's like, for me, like that's just one of the 10,000 reasons why I won't leave them for anything, man.
So when it comes to the insurance, brokers are not brokers. By us setting up the freight, we don't carry the cargo insurance. We have what they call contingent. So we're required to have contingent insurance, and the carrier is to have the cargo insurance, and that's what we require and make sure they have. And what I love about what SPI has is instead of having to pay all this money for them to go get, you know, if they only got 100,000 and it's 200,000, then they have to go back to their insurance, and my brain just stopped working. So the term I want is not going to ever come back to me. But instead of doing that, I just send the information over to our insurance, and we just take care of it. You know, we put the insurance right on it. All my customers love it because they also know that they're going to get it. It's going to get settled a lot quicker than trying to, you know, you're taking the fuel from the fire. So the customers are just going to get handled immediately. And then our insurance companies and their insurance companies can do what they got to do. A binder. So instead of having them to have to go back and get a binder to get the additional insurance, and then where they can add all their fees on and it can get really expensive, I can charge our customer $50-$60 up to $100. You were talking about it like really quick also when you were saying I have to get tow companies all the time. I have to get rotator trucks to come in, like if they're a bigger unit and they're dead and they got to come off the trailer. I started doing that when I was with Alliance, where they were, you know, that's what I got used to. And it was one thing I forgot to ask coming over. And I called up one day and says, oh, wait, I've got this tow company. It's only a couple $100, but we got to get it taken care of. Do I have to do that? He says, oh, no. Our AP department handles all that. Oh, really? Cool. And then I just had one the other day, you know, it was one truck, but they had to use they had to use the rotator and another truck to get it off. It was $2,000. You know, it just depends, but it's done. They're paid, they're taken care of, and then it gets added on to the customer gets it. So,
and that's the thing, man, is, you know, essentially a lot of brokers out there are glorified banks at the end of the day. They're carrying a lot of operating capital, and they're carrying a lot of payables and receivables and everything for extended terms, especially right now, man. And, you know, and I think that's one of the, you know, financial literacy is one of the biggest things that I think affects so many people early on in business is they don't understand that. They don't understand how capital intensive they are. But most importantly, Scott, they wouldn't understand that if they're out there just blindly prospecting for the sake of prospecting, right? Where they're going to find themselves in that situation eventually that you're talking about, right? If they're dealing with a flatbed and then they got to transload that product on the side of the road for whatever, you know, reason, like those things can add up quick. And if you're not aware of that, if you don't have a resource that you can reach out to in that moment, these situations escalate very, very quickly. And I'm just buttoning up something right now where fortunately I've been doing this for a long time. So I was able to navigate through this, and I'm actually going to put some content out there about it when it's all done. But again, like the capital perspective of this really comes into play here, because we go from talking about $1,000 invoice to tens of twenties of thirties of thousands of dollars. If you don't have that cash flow, if you don't have that capital to sustain something like that right away, that's what puts so many businesses under immediately, is because of situations and scenarios like this where they're not properly prepared for it.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, that's why, are you talking about making sure? So you're saying, so I think what I'm getting from that is like, say the carrier has their insurance, but you didn't do the due diligence and the insurance expired or something happened or something happens or something like that?
We'll put it this way. Here's an example. This didn't happen recently at SPI. That this has happened in the past where we had a driver hauling a load for our biggest customer, and they had a engine failure on their truck. They need to get towed, but they didn't have the money to tow their truck. So we fronted all of that money at that time to make sure that that truck could go in there. We actually covered the repair bills to get that shipment delivered because it was our biggest account. And this wasn't at SPI. This was a while ago, but there's been similar situations that this has happened where if we didn't have the capital to do it early on in business, you know, like with that crane example, if I didn't have the financial backing of a company like SPI to come in and front that crane bill, would I have been able to even do that load? Probably not. Would I have lost that customer because I couldn't come through with that? Probably. You know what I mean? So it's like having that financial backing to kind of come in and float a lot of that operating capital right away is what helps so many of us grow and scale our businesses.
So you pay, wow. I haven't done that one. I've had it to where they had to remove the truck and then we just put in another truck onto it and took it with their permission or they transload it. But it must have been pretty heavy where you couldn't just transload it off.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, man, that happens out in the real world, Scott, where you're actually moving freight that doesn't make it out there to light. And that's what, you know, the benefit of going out there. And again, it's like another back to our initial topic of conversation about building your book of business and constantly prospecting. Like there are a lot of situations that you encounter in the real world of business, right? And especially inside of transportation, there's so much out of your hands that are going, even the drivers, right? There's so much that's out of their hands as well. Yes, they're operating the truck and everything, but like how many times do they show up at places and the product's not ready, or there's a change of delivery, or there's a change of, you know, there's a lot of stuff that happens out there. And, you know, Steve Setka said, you know, same thing. You know, the only thing that matters is essentially good, bad, or indifferent. We're going to communicate with you. In situations like that. But, you know, out in the real world, when you're actually moving freight, it's not just pick up on time, deliver on time, invoice, cash checks, right? Like you have to actually be able to operate for your customers, because if you can't, right? Like I view every situation like this, Scott. If I always envision anytime I encounter something, my direct competitor is in the exact same scenario as me, but they're doing everything that I know that I should be doing, you know?
Yeah, there's always someone else knocking. It's just like I just had a customer. He's out on the island, and he goes, you know, are you guys just don't have any work, or are you just bored? And I'm like, why? And he goes, I tried calling you, and I had 3 people call me. You know, they're all looking for work. I tried to tell them I'm not shipping, and they called me a liar.
Wow.
And I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah, they literally told me I was lying, so I just hung up on him. And he goes, I have Scott. I'll just tell him I have Scott. That's who takes care of my stuff. And I was like, I said, wow. I said, like, what's going on? And he goes, oh, just wondering how business is going, because it seems like I'm getting a lot more calls lately. I said, yeah, it's everywhere. They've got brokers from one side of this. They got brokers all over the world now calling. And I feel that I don't know. I get so many complaints from customers because they're like, man, you guys just call all day long. You've heard that for years. But he goes, one I talked to today couldn't even tell me how long a flatbed was.
Yeah.
It's getting to where I said, then ask those questions. And he goes, what? I said, ask the questions. Don't be afraid to test them, because any question you're going to throw at me, I'm not going to hint around it. If I don't know the question, I'm going to tell you, hey, I don't know. But I guarantee I'm going to tell you the weights. I'm going to tell you the trailer lengths. I'm going to tell you what needs to be permitted, escorted. I'm going to be able to tell you anything that has to do with it. But if it has something to do with your product, that has to do with your specification, if I can't find it, I'm not going to guess so I don't mess it up. We're going to ask those questions, because one, the carriers depend on that too. It's not fair that they're going to go in and be told that they're getting a 20-foot parcel and they go in and, oh, now this is 40 feet. You don't know how many more parcels they set up. So now they got to make those calls, and they got other brokers yelling and screaming and using things like 411 to hit up against them, because all it took was one broker to give that wrong information, or one carrier to give the wrong information. It's the logistics. It's the logistics world. Things happen. but mistakes like that can be stopped if we have that knowledge first.
And that's exactly it, man. It's like, and that's why it's like I advocate for so many people, especially when they're first getting started out, to choose a niche and then build up off of that, get relevant experience before expanding out there in the real world and, and trying to get into other areas of freight, right? Because like ultimately for me and in my brokerage, man, we do full truckload, we do partial truckload, and we'll do drayage, but that's it because we have extensive experience doing it. Air freight, nah, I mean, it's out there, right? But like, I'm not going to mess with that. LTL, I'm not really going to mess with that. Intermodal, I'm probably not going to mess with that either, man, because like ultimately I want to stay inside of my lane, pun intended. And I'm really good at open deck freight. I'm really good at over dimensional freight. And there's enough out there for me to stay inside of that and excel and build up a very successful business with it. And I think that so many people get themselves into so many bad situations because they just say yes to everything. And then they find themselves in trouble because they're way in over their head and they shouldn't have because they don't know basic information about that. But well, dude, we're already at our 30-minute mark here, Scott. Okay. I'm gonna have to have you back on. Steve Setka says he's like, we got to get Scott back on. He says he loves having you on here, man. So we'll definitely have to get you back on here in the near future, Scott. But how does anybody reach out to you if they want to find out more or if they got questions for you?
They could email me or call me. The email is swhitford@spi3pl.com, or they can call my office or my cell. It's 518-586-2732.
Perfect.
Pretty much.
Perfect. Well, Scott.
Yeah, but no, when it comes to logistics, I could talk about it all day long. There's so much behind it, so much information that needs to be actually told and educate. You got to really just make sure you're educated. People need to just stop guessing just because they think they're going to make $1 because they're screwing it up for everybody else.
Amen. Amen, Scott. Well, hey, I appreciate it as always. And you guys, if you guys got value in what you heard, which I know you did, subscribe to the show, you guys. Share it out there to your network because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.